Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in this video. So today we are going to discuss Rahu in the 7th house in this ongoing video series about the nodes, where we are discussing the placement of the nodes in all the 12 houses of the horoscope. So yesterday we looked at Ketu in the 6th house, and today it's about Rahu in the 7th house, which means that if Rahu comes to the 7th house, Ketu will go to the 1st house. But then before we go into the meat of the topic, kindly subscribe to the channel, like the content if you find it useful, and do leave behind your valuable feedback in the comment section. Okay. So Rahu in the 7th house and Ketu in the 1st house, this form of the Rahu-Ketu axis is known as Takshaka or Takshak. And Takshak is imagined to be a carpenter, an architect, or builder of alliances who has the tendency to make promises and manipulate contracts to gain maximum pleasure or benefit for himself. And by the same logic, Takshaka is always capable of inducing, either by bribery or obligation, or rather, if I could use the word, force others to cooperate with him. And there is often a focus on partnerships, including marital and mundane, on independent business, foreigners, and also on foreign things in general. And such a native can be opportunistic in making, expedient agreements to further his or her ambitions, whether personal or mundane. And given the inherent sexual charisma of the native, because the 7th house rules the genitals, such a native can be convincing, persuasive, seductive in building relationships with people who are sexually, socially, or materially active. Now, these natives may also suffer physical or psychological irregularities, ranging from disproportionate limbs to disorders of the nervous system. Okay, but then how does Rahu behave in the 7th house? Let's have a look at that. Now, the 7th house represents the house that is away from us. Okay, it is directly opposite to the ascendant or to the Lagna. So, whenever Rahu comes to the 7th, it means that the snake's head is in the place of the other house. So, this implies that there is potential danger in situations where we leave home. And that home base may be the self, the literal home, one's career or relationship, because everything else that exists is just status quo. And to leave our comfort zone, which is either material, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, everything is risky because we are meeting the serpent head on. And out there, we could actually be bitten or swallowed alive. And Rahu represents desire and obsession, whereas Ketu denotes ambivalence and detachment. And with Rahu in the 7th and Ketu in the 1st, this indicates a bias for fostering relationships and promoting transactions with others, sometimes at the cost of one's own physical, emotional, or psychological well-being. The 7th house rules the bladder, ovaries, and prostate gland. And because Rahu rules diseases that are hard to diagnose or cure, this can be a signature for cancer in one of these affected parts. Other astrological evidence, like a weak and badly placed 7th lord or heavy affliction to the 7th house itself, must be present before you can confirm genuine cases of cancer. Okay. And people having Rahu in the 7th house would want to go where no rational person would. So, these people will love to jump off the deep end, embracing the unknown like a sleepwalker who cannot see what he or she might stumble over in the dark, knowing only that he or she must leave his or her bed even if unconscious. So this desire for new experience and, for example, new experiences in travel, this desire is driven by the same impulse to leave the familiar and explore something unfamiliar. And such people, they will not want another vacation in Florida. They will need to go river rafting on the Amazon, or cycling in Kazakhstan. So with Rahu in the 7th house, compulsions are directed outwards, and the native will be obsessed about something outside of himself or herself. So typically these people, they become fascinated with another person, and the more that person is different enough from the native to seem exotic by whatever measuring yardstick, for example, culture or ethnicity or language, etc., the greater the appeal. And usually in India, whenever you go to an astrologer and the jyotishi looks at Rahu in the 7th house, they will usually say that you will marry someone out of the caste. Okay. Why? Because Rahu represents foreigners, and this implies someone of a different race or ethnicity, color, mother tongue, nationality, religion, or socioeconomic background. Now, in Western society, liberal attitudes, they condone interracial marriages, but the native might still choose a partner who gives friends or family pause for concern, for example, for significant age differences or even cases like same gender orientation. So the nodes, they amplify what already exists. So in personal relationships, the native may develop a crush, sexual desire or deep love for another person. And this is more likely when the horoscope contains passion combinations, for example, connections between the moon and Venus on one side versus Mars and Saturn on the other side. So this is just one passion combination. There could be more in the chart. And, the more passion combos are there in the chart, the more Rahu will arouse unconscious desires. So, such a native is usually considered to be opportunistic when it comes to pursuing his ambitions, whether they are personal or mundane. And there is an inherent sexual charisma about the native because the 7th house rules sex. So, such people can be very persuasive and seductive in building relationships with people who are sexually, socially, or materially attractive. And the search for the ideal spouse is intense. Why? Because Rahu is unique and larger than life. So the spouse may be exotic, extravagant, highly desirable, and risky. Okay. Now, on the flip side, these people may become over invested in relationships, for example, thinking that all of these problems will be resolved once the perfect partner is found. But then these people will invite complicated relationships, and consequently, they may experience discontent in in a marriage or treachery in business. And in a commercial context, foreign interests play a vital role in in uh, in the affairs of these people, via which they can incur losses and, given sufficient malefic influence, even bankruptcy. Now, Rahu in the 7th is keenly focused on building relationships. So the native may overextend, make commitments that cannot be fulfilled or deals that do not pay off. And since Rahu is demonic, it implies a deal with the devil. So such a native is very obsessed with money, fame, power, or sex. And the obsession is such that these people will compromise their principles, making deals with whatever holds, or with whoever or whatever holds the key to their desires. Now, Rahu also absorbs multiple planetary influences. So, in the 7th house, it indicates a potential for many partners. And this could mean multiple sexual partners or simply someone who has been married over several times. And because Rahu is omnivorous, a strong sexual appetite might challenge a monogamous relationship. For example, these spells an open marriage. Okay. Or for some people, it could mean an open relationship as well. Okay, particularly in the West. And because Rahu is a trespasser, the native can get involved in illicit relationships as either perpetrator or victim. And although this placement is also indicative of adultery, it also embraces broader implications of sleeping with the enemy. For example, the phrase agent provocateur similarly implies a person who disrupts a status quo situation. And because Rahu is a Chaya Graha, it engages in relationships under the cover of darkness, in disguise, or via subterfuge. And Rahu's unconventionality also implies the possibility of same-sex relationships. And although Western society is legally neutral on this score, the moral and social judgment may be severe. Hence, the natives may need to hide their relationship from business associates or family or friends. Okay. Now, in rare cases, Rahu in the 7th might promise a partnership that transcends the physical to become a vehicle for the spiritual growth. And such natives may be drawn to tantric, sexual practice guided by the principle that the sexual partner isn't just a person, but the embodiment of a divine energy. Now, Rahu also represents blind ambition, and in the 7th, this may indicate someone who marries for financial, social, or political advantage, especially if Rahu is influenced by a powerful Graha. And to achieve, his or her ambition, the native may conceal his or her past or his or her true identity to gain entry into an elite society. And no matter how challenging, the native pursues the relationship with zeal, believing his status and privilege will improve once the partnership, which is either personal or business or political, is sealed. But on a personal level, this entails matchmaking, sexual intimacy and marriage. On a commercial level, it requires bargaining, deal making and contracts. In labor relations, it means arbitration, resolution of conflicts and labor agreements. And in diplomacy, it operates through negotiations, alliances as well as treaties. Okay. So such a native may also have a knack for helping others to foster beneficial relationships. For example, they may function as a professional matchmaker, a marriage counselor, a divorce mediator, a psychologist, a spiritual advisor, or even a sex therapist. Now, in business, these people could be labor relations arbitrator, public relations officer, real estate agent, stockbroker, talent agent, shipping broker, or even a travel agent. And in government, this could mean an ambassador, a diplomat, a lobbyist, or even a foreign affairs officer. Now, Rahu represents forbidden things. So, such a native might deal in alcohol, recreational drugs, stolen goods, pharmaceutical products, skins and hides of exotic animals, horns and tusks of endangered species, illegal immigrants, or people intended for the sex trade. And because Rahu rules illusions, the native may disguise himself in order to fulfill some role. For example, a police informant who infiltrates a criminal organization, or an industrial spy who poses as an employee to access proprietary business information, or maybe an agent of the CIA, M16, or Mossad, or RAW, who adopts a cover identity to penetrate a terrorist organization. The seventh house at last rules travel. And since we are looking at the chart from the ascendant, it's on the other side of the chart. So because Rahu is the Karaka for foreigners in the seventh, it suggests a desire to meet foreigners. So the native may be a traveler for innocent sightseeing or prurient sex tourism, for commercial purposes via import-export trade, or professional reasons such as anthropological studies or international diplomacy. So this is about Rahu in the seventh house. Do let me know if you agree with this analysis. And if you have any doubts regarding this topic, please leave your comments behind in the feedback section. They are very, very valuable for me. So that's it from me in this video. I'll see you soon in yet another video. Till then, please take care. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.